my MA, which is a long time ago. But I wanted to show you this because it was before Photoshop. So, and it was kind of what inspired me to go on this kind of work, to go on and do what I did in my PhD. So I was very interested at that time as I was working as a GP, in the psychodynamics of families, and that's what we were kind of trained in to look at, because families all came to the same doctor, and extended families all came to the same doctor. We had our own lists in a sense. And so you got to understand family dynamics through the way people presented over a number of years, of course, with the various health problems. And I wanted to make work about this, and I thought, okay, start with my own family. So I took a whole bunch of family slides, actually, that my mum let me use, and reinvented them. And what I was trying to say in each photograph was something about the dynamics that were going on at the time, rather than what you normally see in a photograph, which is sort of, happy smiling faces. So that was one of the images, and I'll just go through them if VLC will let me. Okay, so that's the next one, and that's is it gone?
Yeah.
Okay, back again.
That looks as if it's on the heath.
It is on the heath. You're absolutely right.
And it's St. Michael's Church right at the back.
Correct.
Sticking out.
So that's a family picnic, and there are various family members in that scene. And this is another little family picnic, but it was just my mum and immediate my siblings. The way I did it was to make each oh god, this VLC thing's a bit of a shame. But anyway,
if you hit pause, does it work to stop it instead of stop?
It doesn't have a there's
that little one in the middle.
Yeah, it's got annotate button over the okay. Yeah, maybe that'll work.
So Vanda, sorry, these aren't all you. They look like you in each one of the pictures.
Yeah.
Is it your family?
That's exactly right. So I'm basically performing each family member by making these black and white photographs, cutting them out, and then reconstructing. So as you can see in each picture, I'm each person. So I'm my mum. I think that was my brother. That's me. That's my younger brother, and we're all kind of they're all performances. They're not what the original photographs look like precisely, except we were laid out that way, if you see what I mean. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I was performing each family member in an individual photograph, and then rephotograph them by sticking. Can you see there's a little leg, which is actually a piece of wood? I stuck that in the ground and then put all the players out in some sort of green area. You're right, Chad, it was Hampstead Heath, and then rephotographed to make the final image. So these are me. This is me acting out each person. Sorry, this is really going crazy. So when I applied after doing my MA, what was one of the pieces I did? I started to think a lot more about medicine, and sorry, this is very difficult to do. It's not really coming up as I wanted it to do. And I wanted to think about medicine in relation to 3 different areas. One was ritual, one was psychoanalysis, and the other is narrative. So I'm now going to just put up some. Sorry, these photographs should have been. Okay, these really should be in the VLC. I'll just add them now. So in thinking about ritual, I started to make short films about various different rituals. And I'll just give you a little brief intro to this film. So this was about the idea of scrubbing, which doctors scrub up, or nurses scrub up, or clinicians scrub up. But I was trying to think about it in relation to A, it being a ritual, and B, it having connotations of OCD, like endlessly scrubbing to clean away something you can't see. So anyway, it lasts about 5 minutes. I just skip through it a little bit. Oopsie, this is not very good. It's not working, is it? Sorry. I thought it'd be very straightforward to work through the VLC, but it's not. I'll get back to that film. Might be easier if I just play it like this. So there's the film again. So it lasts about 5 minutes, and I set up a sink in my sitting room with running water because it's very difficult to film, to get a hospital setting, and to get all the right lighting and so on. It just proved impossible, so eventually I just did it at home. And I think it has some relevance to today and COVID and that sort of thing, but this was pre-COVID. Okay, so I'll finish it there. It goes on for about 5 minutes, and you eventually see me sort of drying. It's me that's doing the acting, drying my hands and so on. So go back to the VLC. So I took some photographs. Again, thinking about rituals and dress and uniform and hospital hierarchies. So this is it was quite a large print. It's done on a 5:4 camera, and this was called I Know, and obviously it's a nurse smoking, and nurses and all sorts of health workers often go to have a quick smoke in the restroom or outside the hospital during their breaks, and you might wonder why, but I guess it's to do with stress and all sorts of things. And that's why I called it I Know, because yes, they know they're smoking, but they still want to do it. And this is a picture of again, it's a studio shot of a surgeon. It's a 5:4 photograph, and it's again sort of made to look a little bit like a god. And this was called Mr. Gray, and it was called Mr. Gray after a book called Gray's Anatomy, which every medical student uses to learn their surgery or their anatomy, basically. Okay, so that's that.
The wellies are really unnerving. Do they wear those in surgery?
Sorry?
The wellies.
Yeah, they wear wellies.
Oh. Like a sort of meat worker or something in a factory.
Yes. It's quite an imposing photograph when you see it large. And it's slightly above eye level, so he's looking slightly down on you when you look at it. That's when I installed it. That's how I installed it. Okay, I'll just try and go back to the VLC again and see if it will let me play the next thing. Nope, it seems to be wanting to go backwards. Okay, so the next piece is for my final work at the Royal College. I made a film called Frozen Section. And for this, I went to New York. And initially, I was just interviewing loads of people. It was soon after 2000. When was the attack on the World Trade Center? I think it was 2000 and
2001, I think.
Sorry?
2001, I think.
Yeah, so it was about about a year later. I had a gallery in New York, and we had an opening night where I showed some other work, and they invited lots of people to come along and see if they wanted to participate in the making of this film. And I ended up getting loads and loads of people were interested. And the idea was that at the time I wanted to do have some sort of doctor-patient interviews in people's houses, a bit like a home visit. So I would pay a home visit to someone's flat, usually in New York, and we'd have an interview, and I'd make a short video of the encounter. And then the idea was that I would take all these works home and somehow make some kind of possibly multi-screen image thing. I hadn't really worked it out. But during the filming, there was one person, Lila, whose story really stuck out. And when I got back to London, I kind of discarded everyone else's stories in favor of hers, and asked if I could go back and interview her mum, her dad, and her doctor about her illness. And the reason I was interested in her illness was because I felt it had really interesting psychodynamic aspects to it. It wasn't a straightforward, you know, I had appendicitis or something. There was a lot of psychology attached to it. And so I made this film as a 3-screen installation. I'm just going to start it. And what you'll see is Lila is represented by a still frozen image in the center. Her mum appears on the right and her dad on the left. And later on in the film, you'll see her doctor. So I'll just run through it. And it's a complicated narrative that unfolds. So that's it starts with Lila.
Are you originally from New York?
I was born in California in a place called Ojai. It's a little mountain valley.
And how long have you been living here?
I think my family moved here when I was like probably 8.
Was it Ojai or
Ojai, Ojai, and it actually means nest.
Oh, nice.
It means nest, and it's a very spiritual town in the Pine National Forest, actually, just 75 miles northeast of LA.
Right. Why is
So,
it spiritual?
well, Krishnamurti said that it is one of the 5 or 7 magnetic centers of the world.
Really?
Yes. And Krishnamurti would come there, and he would hold seminars and speak to whomever wanted to come and see him. And he felt it was a very spiritual place. Madame Blavatsky lived there, who was I guess she was a student of the mystical. The mystical.
I have an interesting medical, I guess, unfinished story. Let's see. I'll give it in a nutshell, sort of. Whole story began when I was probably about 11. I would get these really horrible leg cramps walking home, like paralyzing. Couldn't even walk. There would be an occasion when my friend would take me home in like a shopping cart.
Good grief.
Yeah. And I didn't even really think of it. I came up with my own conclusions sometimes. One of them would be like, if I had to pee when I started to walk home, then I was going to get leg cramps. Others would be if my pants were too tight, I was going to get them. I just didn't have, and it was never consistent, and it would always just be like, when I would get them, I'd be like, well, what did I do this time? Did I forget to pee? Am I wearing tight pants? And then, you know, kind of went away, came back, and all through school time, it was like that. There was a period of time in college when I exercised a lot. I got very into like swimming for an hour every day and working out. And I didn't really have the experience during that time very much, even though I probably was kind of abusing my body. I wasn't eating very much, and I brought my weight down to like 89 pounds.
I remember, I don't know if it was the first time, because, so by the time I came home.
Okay, I'm going to
Was
just
her-
fast
remember when
forward
she
a
was
little bit.
little?
This is her dad.
And it was so sporadic.
Do you remember anything before? Even that was her first recollection. Do you remember when she was little, when you were living with her? If she ever?
I first became aware of it, I suppose, some years ago, when Mila would tell me about how her legs pained her, and then I would say, well, you know, that happened to me as a young man too.
It began happening again much more severely, probably, when I moved to the city.
Okay, I'm going to fast forward a little bit more.
It gets like to be full body, like in the back of my neck, my throat can kind of tighten, wrists,
Oh, that was in New York. That was last.
legs.
So
I
at
was
this
seeing her
point, I'm
because I
interviewing her
became quite
doctor,
interested in her case when she told me about
although
it.
that's
what I
an
meant to say.
actor.
Where were you when she told you about her case?
Oh, that was in New York. That was last year, and I was visiting, and we met, and she was telling me about her case.
As a friend?
Not really. I mean, I met her socially.
So you're not a doctor?
No. You heard about the first attack then? Yeah.
I don't remember hearing about it, really.
No.
I was out of the loop for so much of it, so much of her upbringing, except for visits with her as much as I could.
First of all, she called me.
Okay, I'm going to stop it there. The whole story evolves quite slowly. It's a 16-minute piece. And by the end of it, the point that I was trying to make was how her family dynamics and how her own experience kind of affected one's understanding of what was going on. It wasn't a purely physiological event, as I understood it, and I think she understood it like that as well in the end. Okay, so let's close down. We'll go to the next thing. After I'd finished my PhD, I went to Mexico. And to cut a long story short, I'd met some Mexican healers in London, and they were actually working in my house because I couldn't afford to rent a large place. Not that I have a large house, it was just in our sitting room, but they were using it to do their treatments and stuff. And I started to get to know them. And at a certain point, because I was a medic and so on, they asked me if I'd be interested to make a film about them in Mexico. And this is kind of the result of that. So this is just to say, I'm looking at a very ancient form of medicine, which embraces, I think, a psychological, a spiritual, a physical, medicinal. So many different things interact in this one practice, and it's incredibly powerful. In my experience of being a patient. And so I was very inspired to make this film. So I'll just let you sort of see the first bit anyway.
village of San Pablo Tecalco lies outside Mexico City near the ancient city of Teotihuacan. San Pablo Tecalco is the home of the Nahuatl family of Elozochitl, who is a practitioner of Mexica medicine. I first met Elozochitl in London's East End, where she and her assistants were working with and teaching the Mexica medicine. I was soon fascinated by their unusual practice and impressed with their skills. We became friends, and Elozochitl invited me to San Pablo to make this film. While standing behind the camera, I was always conscious of being a Western doctor, observing the rituals and practices of an ancient system of medicine that I was slowly beginning to understand. A system whose continually evolving knowledge of philosophy, mathematics, and of medicine originated over 1,500 years before the Western medicine that I have learned. This humbling thought gives me the greatest respect for Mexica Pactli and for Elozochitl and her fellow practitioners who are patiently teaching me their medicine.
I'm just going to fast forward to the first, that's the treatment room. I'm going to fast forward to first ritual.
Bien, cierra tus ojitos, Alexis Emanuel. Y vamos a hacer una oración. Vamos a pedirle al Padrecito Sol y a la Madrecita Tierra que traigan hasta aquí tu espíritu, Alexis Emanuel, para que seas un hombre fuerte, firme, que no le temas a nada, que tu corazón esté lleno de amor, que tu pensamiento esté lleno de cosas buenas, que pienses cosas bonitas, como amar a tus padres, cómo proteger a tus abuelos, cómo entenderte a ti mismo, que pienses que todo el mundo te ama, que te aman tus padres, que te aman tus abuelos, y que puedes seguir adelante, caminando con tus pies, con tu corazón, con tu cabeza. Vamos a pedirle a la Madre Tierra, aleje de ti los obstáculos que puedan dañarte, las piedras que puedan perjudicar a tu camino, que las quite de tu camino, que te cuide, que te proteja. También el Padrecito Sol, que te regale un rayito de su luz y que siempre veas mucha luz, que no tengas miedo, que tengas mucha seguridad para salir adelante, mucha fuerza para querer crecer y ser un hombre fuerte y firme, para que puedas proteger a tus padres, a tus abuelos, para que tengas la sabiduría que tus padres y tus abuelos quieren regalarte y darte, y que te lo dan con amor.
Okay. So the continuation of the film shows a few more rituals and interviews with Elozochitl, where she's talking a lot more about what she does, why she does it, how it works, and interviews with some of her patients, and so on. And also she has a medicine room where she talks a lot about the medicines that she uses, which come mostly from the Amazon in Peru, are handmade in her clinic. So let's go on to the next one. How are we doing for time? I can stop, or I could show you maybe one more.
No, keep going, keep going.
Sorry?
Keep going.
Keep going.
Yeah, I
Okay.
agree.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Yeah, no, keep going.
Keep going.
Yeah, we all agree.
Yeah, okay, fine. So in relation to that practice, I wanted to show the fact that she you know, I met her here and she uses it here and she uses it on people here. And I made a piece in my garden that wasn't really very successful. What she was treating a friend, and we filmed it. It didn't really work very well. And then I wanted to film this thing called the Temazcal, which means stone loincloth, and you'll probably understand why when I show you the film. And that's a ritual which it uses heat and a lot of ritual and chanting and that sort of thing. And it's about the liminal and the we can talk about that in the discussion, the liminal state in a ritual, the liminal aspect of being a patient or being part of this healing thing. So yeah, I'll just show it. I filmed it. It looks like it was filmed on one day, but I had to keep coming back and film quite a few before I kind of got it right. And I put it all together as if it's the one piece, which it kind of is and it isn't.
Dice Shelly, temí que dijera, entonces no voy. No, no, pero sí. ¿Cuándo lo hicieron? Oh, Medeo. Oh, Medeo.
I'll just fast forward a little bit.
Cubrir. No. Bienvenidos. Hermanas, dichosas, porque antes que todo son mis hermanas. Muchas gracias. Muchas gracias. Thank you.
It's the place where we have the opportunity
de limpiar nuestro cuerpo,
to clean our body,
limpiar nuestra alma,
to clean our soul,
limpiar nuestra mente
to clean our mind,
y darle fuerza a nuestro espíritu.
and to strengthen our spirit.
El espíritu no se limpia,
So the spirit,
ese se le da
we don't
fuerza,
clean
se le
it,
da
we
vitamina,
have to
se le dice
strengthen it.
vamos, adelante.
So we say to him, you have
El
to go
cuerpo
ahead.
tiene que limpiarse,
And the body has to
tiene que
clean,
curarse, La
But it has to
mente,
be heat.
la mente tiene que limpiarse.
The mind door is open, you can go.
Ometeos. Un momento. Chumuwala que Chalcoa Tamashi. Chumuwala que Chalcoa Tamashi. La siguiente. Ometeo. Ometeos.
Somebody had to come out because it was just too too intense, too hot.
Pero, ábrele. No vas a hacer. Relax, Boris. Tu nombre. No. No fuera de la cubeta, Helio. Dale la cubeta, Helio. Ya sabes. Chao, Sinead. Los palos y la medicina. La siguiente. ¿Lo pillas? ¿Así? Abajo.
Francisco.
Okay. And I think I should probably just show you one more thing. As you mentioned, Spike Island, I was invited to join a group called Vision Forum, which is a group of artists working together in collaboration to do all sorts of interesting things, and possibly at the end of it all have a show or make a publication. And we ended up doing both, actually. But along the way, we made pieces of work together, and this one was in Spike Island. And I'd been learning how to do shamanic journeying from by working with a woman called Zoe in London, who is a shaman. And she taught me how to journey. And for the piece at Spike Island, I thought I'd do a journey piece. So let me just see if this is the right JPEG. Yeah, so this is Spike Island. And the artist there, whose name escapes me, had been commissioned to make... She'd been commissioned to cover the gallery walls with all these images that she'd made in and around London and Bristol. And they were sort of impressions that she'd had because she's Canadian. And one of the pictures she had was of a horse. She'd taken that in the V&A, I think it was. No, not the V&A, in the Natural History Museum. She'd photographed a horse that was in a huge container of, I guess, formalin. It was preserved. And I was very drawn to this picture because I felt the horse was trapped. And so I wanted to do a shamanic journey to try and release this horse. And so I did it in the gallery. So you're just going to see a little bit of it now. It's a bit echoey, I'm afraid. Just fast forward. That's Fatosh Ustek. I don't know if you know her. Having a sandwich. So this is the beginning of my. Okay, I was wondering, there was a bit of me rattling around with a rattle, but I can't get it. So this is the journey process, and I have to cover my eyes, always make a recording of the journey so it can be analyzed afterwards, usually with the shaman or independently. And then you speak the journey out loud, but what I can hear through some headphones, which I'm about to put on my head, is some drumming, some rhythmic drumming that has the effect of putting your brain into a kind of more of dreamlike state, I'd say. Again, a kind of liminal in-between state where your thoughts are more kind of, they come to you, your ideas and your visions come to you very quickly, and it's very unpremeditated. I'm going on a journey to the world to meet my spirit mother, to ask, where is the spirit of the stuffed horse in the Natural History Museum now? I'm going on a journey to the underworld to meet my spirit mother, to ask, where is the spirit of the stuffed horse in the Natural History Museum now? I don't know if you can hear that. It's very indistinct, but basically, I just say that I'm going on a journey to meet my spirit helpers in the upper world to ask, where is the spirit of the horse in the museum, and basically how I can help that horse. And it goes on, and it's so what I'm doing now is just describing what I can see whilst I'm on the journey and speaking it out loud. And what happened on this journey was so interesting. Basically, the horse was pregnant and had a foal in kind of inside it. I mean, obviously a fetus. And the purpose of the journey was to liberate the fetus. And that's what happened in the journey, that this fetus was liberated. Or this little pony, or whatever you want to call it. So yeah, and I'm just going to show you a little photograph. So that's the horse at the front there. Got a better photograph maybe. No, I did have another. Never mind.
Did you see from the photograph that it was pregnant or not?
No, I had no idea. That was just a picture of a setup that I use when I'm doing journeys in my own studio. And for this, I was making a film about going on a journey to understand what this image meant. And it was someone who'd sent that image to me. It was part of a a group show in Denmark, and we'd all sent each other a photograph, and we all had to kind of think about what that photograph meant and respond to it. So my response was in the form of a shamanic journey to ask my spirit helpers what this, it was a double-headed figure, what it all meant. And I've got a little film of that journey as well. But I think we should stop there. Let me just see if I've got a picture of Spike Island. No, I don't have it. Sorry, but but anyway, the horse was in this. I felt so sorry for the horse that was, well, presumably dead, but something about the spirit being trapped inside this glass container was quite. I found it quite distressing just to look at that poor creature and imagine it not having a proper burial or whatever horses have. Okay, I'm going to leave it there and see if I can get back to not sharing. Sorry, I seem to have not very good at managing the technology here. Yeah. Okay. Is that ended the sharing?
Not yet.
I'm just trying to see if I can help you. I don't think I can. If you put your arrow right down to the bottom of the screen, can you see share?
Yeah.
If you click on that, will it give you an option to unshare?
Can't see one. Leave. I can leave, but I think
that might leave you out of the
my screen. How about that?
You're back.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, it's not very good because it's difficult with this VLC thing. I thought it would be very easy just to flick through each thing, but it doesn't seem to be that easy.
But it's okay. We get a pretty good idea, I think, anyway. So well done.
Yeah. Vanda, I don't know your practice at all. So what led you into the world of shamanism? Is that the right term for it? How did you get drawn into that? What influenced you?
Well, after I did my PhD, I had a lot of questions to think about in relation to medicine because I'd done a lot more reading and thinking, and I was still working as a doctor during the time, but mostly as a locum. And I got a couple of funded years off, so I had, and I think I had 3 funded years off AHR, but it was then AHRB funding. And that made me think a lot more outside the box in relation to medicine. And then soon after that, I met the Mexican healers because they were in London, and I had a bad back, probably from sitting down all the time writing my PhD. And I'd been to a physio, hadn't really helped me. So my friend Sarah, who was working with Ella Societal and had trained with her, said, why don't you come and see these Mexicans? They're really brilliant. They'll help you. And she kind of sold it to me. So I went to see them. And within about 3 days of their treatment, my back got a lot worse. And then it vanished. Like the pain of my back vanished completely. So I was a bit like wowed by it. And then started working with them partly because they needed somewhere to work. Their place at the workshop the place in Stoke Newington that they were renting, they put up their fees and they couldn't afford it. So Sarah asked me if I could sort of let them use my sitting room, and that was all fine, and that's how I got to know them. And they don't describe their practice as shamanistic, but if you were, say, a Western anthropologist, there are definitely elements of it that relate to shamanism. So that that interested me a lot. And then just by chance, I met this woman, Zoe, in London. And I'd had a screening of the Mexica film that you just saw. And Zoe was there, and she came up to me afterwards and started talking to me about shamanic journeying. And she sort of said, why don't you come and, I was very interested. And she said, why don't you come and meet me, and I'll show you what it's about, talk to you about it. And if you want it, you can learn how to do it. So that's what I did. And over a period of about 2 years, I saw Zoe quite regularly. And she did some workshops and drumming workshops and all sorts of things. And I learned about it through her. And then having learned about it, I wanted to make some work about it.
Thank you.
But I think working with Mexica medics sort of opened me a lot more, opened my mind a lot more to thinking about other kinds of practices and their how they work, and how different they are from Western allopathic medicine.
So in the process, did you lose faith in your training as a Western doctor?
No, I didn't. I kept on working and using it, and I think it just enriched my practice, because I think I had a lot more, I felt I had a lot more tools, and also it helped me to understand people who came to see me who had a different perspective on medicine and how it functioned for them. I mean, often people won't be critical to your face of Western medicine if that's what you're practicing, but behind your back, when they go home, they say, oh God, they'll probably moan away. But some people will talk to you about things like, I remember one patient who was from Nigeria, and she wanted me to act as a spirit medium, because she felt that her spirits, or some spirits, had been put on her, some evil spirits, if you like, and she needed to, they were undermining her and harming her, and she needed a way of frightening them off. And so she wanted me to talk to them. Now, if I hadn't met any of these people and gone in a different direction, I'd have said, I'm sorry, I'm not qualified to do that. But since she asked me and she thought I could do it, I just said, well, look, I'll try for you. I'll certainly give it a go. I can't promise anything. So, and I did it for her. I can't remember whether it worked or not. I think it did actually help in the end. But so I was just much more open to different things, and not so kind of tunnel. I didn't have so much tunnel vision. And now, because I've been doing a lot of integrative medicine, and I'm making a film about that, which I can't show you because it's not really finished, I'm far more critical of Western medicine than ever before, because it's great for acute stuff. It's fantastic for acute stuff, but for the chronic stuff, it's got a problem. And a lot of doctors now are turning to functional medicine, integrative medicine, and learning about approaching health in a very different way. And I think this is seeping into medical practice in a conventional way. There are now integrative doctors practicing in, I think the Royal London has an integrative doctor, and UCH does. And I know in Turkey there are quite a lot of integrative medics working. But the problem with it is that it's very individual, whereas Western medicine tends to work on a kind of one-size-fits-all basis, because it's cheap. You know, if you've got one tablet for blood pressure that works for everyone, then great, you've got a solution. But it tends to just say, right, you've got blood pressure, we're going to treat it with X, Y, and Z, but it doesn't ask, why have you got blood pressure? And so integrative medicine looks much more deeply into the why do people get ill, and why do they get chronically ill, and these chronic diseases are affecting all of us, especially as we get older. So it's still based in the kind of on a scientific model, but it goes into things in a lot more depth.
So it seems, Vanda, there's a fusion between your medical practice and your background, and then the use of film, and it's an interesting mixture that's you know, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, so that's still all part of your work.
Yes.
So, Vanda, in the beginning, when you were introducing yourself and your practice, you use the word liminal.
Liminal.
Yeah. And because I'm absorbing everything you're telling me, which is so refreshing and so different from I've been exposed to. And of course, that word to me has certain connotations. And I was just wondering whether you could explain it through your lens, through your practice.
Yeah, well, so when I was doing my PhD, I did this chapter on ritual, wrote a chapter on ritual. And in ritual, let's imagine there are certain rituals where the subject of the ritual is in a sort of in-between state. And often, let's say, not necessarily completely naked, but often naked, often in a group of other people who are also going through the same ritual, vulnerable, and kind of, I wouldn't say at the mercy is quite right, but certainly having to accept the ritual and what will happen to them in this transformative process in order to go through the transformation. So a liminal subject is someone who is in a state of transition and vulnerable. Is that
and then when you're doing your shamanic journeys, are you in a liminal, are you occupying that liminal state too, between sort of, I don't know, two realms?
No, well, that's an interesting question. Well, not well, I can be, yes, because I'm asking questions that I don't have answers for. And I'm in a ritual. It's a shamanic ritual. And normally one works with one's shamanic tutor, who will go through the dialogue with you and try and interpret it for you. So, and also mentally, you're in a different state. I'm not sure if it answers the questions of liminality entirely. When I was writing this chapter, I described a patient as liminal in the sense that, let's just say you're having an operation. You go into the hospital, you're signed up, you're no longer Sharon from London, you're Sharon the patient, and you wear a name tag, you got your hospital clothes on, you go into, say, an operating theatre, you're surrounded by all these people who are professionals who know what they're doing, and they're going to stick drugs into you, and you're vulnerable, but you trust the situation and let go of your resistance, should we say. And then hopefully you have your anesthetic, you have your operation, you come out the other end and you're okay. But in that state, you're a liminal subject. You're no longer Sharon, the artist who's out in the world.
So then there could be a parallel for Vanda, the artist, who then goes journeying through that state of that, on that shamanic journey, and you're responding to, I'm imagining, to what you're seeing, and you're sort of becoming like a medium in a way of relaying, but you're not really in charge of what's happening.
No, I'm not in charge. You're absolutely right. I'm trusting you could say, oh, well, I say the unconscious, but Zoe would say no, it's your spirits that you're engaging with. You cannot think of it in terms of the unconscious. So there's a big debate about that, but leaving that aside, Zoe taught me, and I trusted her completely. So when I'm in that state, I'm with my spirits, I'm allowing myself to be guided by the spirits. So yes, it's interesting. I hadn't thought about that, but yes, I am liminal. Yeah.
It's all fascinating. It's really fascinating, your whole practice.
Very fascinating.
Any other thoughts?
And so Vanda, with let's say the liminal state, how do you transmit that through film? And what's the connection?
To film?
Yeah, yeah. So are you through film trying to then induce the liminal state in the person who's watching the film?
No, but I'm asking them to imagine it. I mean, you saw that boy in the film where Ella Sochettle was giving him what's called a susto, like a treatment for shock.
On
And
his feet there, that thing that looks
yeah,
like, yeah.
I mean, you didn't see the whole process, but he was definitely liminal. He was vulnerable. He was lying down. He was covered in a blanket. His relatives were around him. Everyone was trying to help him, and he was going along with it. And I suppose in the film, I was trying to bring out that aspect of what he might be going through, and how the whole ritual put him there. So it's very much a liminal character. Sorry, I'm just going to get my I haven't completely disappeared. I'm just getting my
You're on a liminal journey.
a power lead.
The whole space is very liminal behind you.
Yeah. So yeah, so a lot of there's a few rituals that you didn't see in that film that are really amazing, so powerful. And the patients were all asked beforehand if they would agree to be in the film, and some of them said yes and some of them said no, and the ones that said yes, then we filmed, and they were quite happy with it. So don't imagine that I just went in and they didn't have any say in what was going on. They were, they either did or they didn't want to be filmed. And I was lucky because the boy didn't mind at all. You'd think a small child might say, no, I'm not happy about this, but he seemed very willing to be filmed. In fact, almost a preference, almost like, yeah, this would be great. I don't know what was going on in his mind, but it seemed to be something very positive for him.
But I suppose in that gathering, he had familiar people around him. He had a circle of trust.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm wondering how it changes the experience of recording it and then experiencing it. So, for example, when you're on your journey, listening back to the tape, is it catching things that you're not aware of the time that you're relaying? And would it be the same for his recording? Is there something he's seeing later in a recording that he might not be aware of at the time? Or is there any variation in between the experience and the recording? I guess is my question.
Yeah, so I think if he were to look back at, because I gave basically that film got shown in Mexico in quite a few different places, and also shown in the village, and he and his family turned up, so he will have seen that, but I never got any feedback from him about what he thought about it. But that might have been for all sorts of reasons, like language barriers and stuff. But I imagine when he looked at that, he'd probably think, wow, I didn't realize all that was going on. But for me, when I go on a journey and then I've recorded it and then I listen to it, you listen to it straight away after. The idea is that you listen to it very soon after you've done it. And then you actually write everything down as well as recording it. So I remember what happened. So that in a sense isn't new, but it's the interpretation that's so fascinating. Because you end up saying things that you don't know where those things came from. How on earth did I think about that? Where did that come from? And it's really a process of completely letting go, and you're just guided by the images that come into your head, which I think is very much about being an artist as well. I'm thinking of your work, Should, actually, in that respect. But so it's about letting go and just letting your ideas and your thoughts just float through. And it is surprising afterwards when there's an interpretation, especially when I was working with Zoe, because she had a lot of insight into what happens on journeys and what things mean, because she works with lots of different people, or should I say she did, because she's no longer alive, sadly. But what she would always say was that there were tropes. So regardless of culture and regardless of all sorts of differences between people, people would have a lot of images and styles and I don't know, maybe call it Jungian archetypes that corresponded, that were similar and recognizable and therefore interpretable.
Across different cultures?
Yeah, so let's say I would go for a walk in a wood to find a spirit helper. That's one of the, when you're learning how to do this, you have to meet your spirit helpers. So I went through a wood, but someone else might walk through I can't think of a parallel, but maybe a jungle or a green space. It's not like an English wood, it's like a different kind of space. But people would choose very similar portals to find their spirit helpers. They'd choose similar areas of green, or they'd choose mountains, or they'd choose caves or rivers. That obviously are similar in all cultures. I think of a better example. No, I think often people, obviously it's all about nature and the natural world, and that's where a lot of people find their images and find their inspiration, perhaps, and that translates into anywhere you are in the world, really.
So you said you're working on a film at the moment?
So yes, it's about, I was asked to, and this is very different. It's not an art-based film, although I'll try and make it as arty as I can. But I've been asked to make a short film for the British School of Ecological Medicine to go on their website. And what I've done is interviewed lots of different people about their understanding of the practice and how they use it, what the future looks like, how they understand it, so that if you were to tap on the film and listen to it online, you'd get an understanding of what ecological medicine is. And if you, the idea of the film is to try and encourage people to join the British School of Ecological Medicine, doctors, nutritionists, other practitioners, to sort of feel inspired and want to know more. So I've basically more or less finished the narrative, but now I've got to find the B-roll. And actually, one of the questions I have for tonight was, it's a bit too difficult to show it, or I could show it, but another time. But I've got a very short space of time to think about the B-roll. And some people have said to me, well, why don't you use animation? But I haven't a clue about animation, and I don't know who I would ask. So, for example, I want to talk about how industrial farming has all sorts of negative impacts on the soil health. So I'd like to get some video footage of a great big machine doing some ploughing or doing something in a field in the UK. And I'm sure I can find something online, but I don't want it to look like it's just come off one of these what are these sites where you find all the footage that are quite commercial. I wanted to look at quite authentic, and somebody said, well, why don't you do animation?
I mean, you could use AI in something like Mid-Journey. And just on the architectural side of things, we've used just some still images and fed it in and say, you know, do a fly through and just do this and do that, and you know, just playing around with it. And so I'm sure you could, you know, give it a try. I mean, I'm not an expert on it, but I've seen some of the stuff that people are doing.
Oh, okay. What's it called again?
Well, the one we've used is Mid-Journey, but there's others. I don't know, Yasmin, if you guys are using anything, you and your husband there. Or...
Not like that, not for that sort of thing.
Yeah.
We keep it quite sort of straightforward.
Yeah.
Mid-Journey. I'm not familiar with it, I have to admit.
Is there any budget, Vanda, to pay an animator or not?
There might be a little bit of money left over. Yeah. The budget was £7,000. Quite a lot of it's already been used, but there probably is a bit left over. Yeah. So, but I mean, obviously, with a thing like Mid-Journey, you probably have to have a few skills.
Surprisingly, no. I mean, just the one fellow who's been doing it, who's been playing around with, just been doing with just text commands.
Right.
There was another program someone was mentioning the other day too, Elevate, and they have been putting up on their platform animated sort of, you can, again, with text, create animated sequences, film sequences.
What's that? What's the software called?
Elevate.
Elevate.
Yeah, elevate.io, I think it's called. I can send you a link.
And the other one, sorry, what was it again?
Mid-Journey.
Mid-Journey. Okay, thanks.
Do you have to worry about how much electricity that's chewing up?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. We do, don't we?
With all this AI stuff.
Yeah.
Amazing practice, Vanda. Really, so many interesting threads.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of threads, and I think one of my concerns at the moment is where do I go? You know, okay, I'm making this film, but in terms of getting back to what I was doing before, I got interrupted for several years because of all sorts of reasons, partly house renovation, broken legs, and my mother dying. And so I've had a few years out, and actually that's been quite good in a sense, because it's had a lot more time for reflection. But yeah, I'd be interested in any thoughts you might have about that, about how I might move forward.
I think those independent films are so worth making, and you're obviously getting them shown and finding opportunities through them. I don't know how sustainable it is or how sustainable you need it to be, but I just I think it's so valuable making those films you were making. And I wanted to watch them through to the end. You kept cutting them off. Like, oh, I want to see what's happening. I mean, your narrative in the New York one, or the patient doctor family situation one, and even the shamanic one in the garden. I mean, just they're fascinating to watch.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Because the frozen section one in America, that one,
yeah,
that took so long to make. My God, it's painful. But yeah, because I was very new to that process of using 3 screens. But the family liked it. But I screened it at the Whitechapel and a couple of other places in London. Somewhere else, can't remember now, outside London. Yeah, I got into trouble over the I wouldn't say trouble, but I got with the 4 fundamental directions, the film that I shot in Mexico. When I first screened it, it was in London, and it was one of these kind of evenings where there were tons of people and lots of theorists from Goldsmiths, and I was really jumped upon for being a white person going out and filming another cult, you know, and taking, was it appropriation, and we discussed it quite a lot. I was a bit taken aback. I just wasn't expecting that because of what I was trying to do in the film. And everyone said, look, it's fine, but you have to say why you're there, and you know, what led into you being there. It wasn't like you just wandered into Mexico, met these people and just said, oh, can I make a film about you? That wasn't the process at all. It was more about having worked with them in London and them inviting me out there. So I changed the film and introduced it in the way that you heard, which gives some explanation as to, you know, this was not a random occurrence. And I discussed it a lot as well with Ella Sechitl about whether she thought, what her opinion about that whole thing was. And for her, it's very important that as many people know about this medicine as possible. So she saw it as a really good thing. So I don't know. It was difficult, and it put me off making it any other work for a while. Actually, I just thought, this is it's treading on it. I don't know. It's a difficult one. So, and then I started making work about what they were doing in the UK, from within the UK.
What would you love to be doing next?
Sorry?
What would you love to be doing next?
What would I love to be
doing next?
Oh, love to be doing next. Well, I don't know. I'm not sure. I think I'd like to see where this ecological film takes me, because I'm very interested in soil and soil health and ecology, because we're just destroying the planet, and it's a problem. It's a massive problem, and it's impacting everyone's health, everyone's lives, and it is the most pressing subject around. And if you can get rid of the polluters, then you're going to have to overturn the entire system of the way the world works. But we're all suffering because of it. So I probably maybe do something about that. But lots of people are doing stuff about that, but it still doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think more people need to do something about it.
Yeah. But in this film I'm making, everyone talks a lot about food is your medicine. And I think maybe, yeah, I'd probably do something around that that's more to do with an art practice than anything. That, you know, it's more an artistically based process rather than a straightforward documentary.
Well, we look forward to the next one.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone.
Yeah,
well, thank you, Vanda.
amazing.
That was
Thank you. Yeah.
Really great. So many questions, so much food for thought.
Yeah. Okay. Good to see you all.
Okay,
Okay.
we'll see you soon.
Thanks. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Thanks, Vanda. Bye.
Bye.